Welcome back into You and the Law on 938 Live. I'm Keith D'Souza, speaking today with Dana Grossman. Dana is a senior mediator at Mediate Singapore. We're talking all about mediation and how it could save you time. It could save you money and, more importantly, give you control of the process that you are disputing. So, Dana, welcome back into the program. Let's talk about some case studies and some juicy stories that you have for us. Corporate or private?
Corporate or private. So, I guess this week we had 2 negotiation courses with a speaker that came abroad, and we conducted it together at the Supreme Court and other companies. And one of the stories that occurred was about a very big deal that was on the table about selling goods to another company. And apparently the 2 clients were in negotiation for a long, long time, and the gap between what they've asked for and what they were willing to pay was huge. So by sitting to a negotiation table and by actually trying to identify their interest, they managed to increase the pie. And what I mean with that is that you have a few options how to do that. By saying, I want to have $10 million and you only want to pay $1 million, something like that. The gap is huge. Some people will just leave the table and go back. But by being smart and prepared yourself, you know that this gap will be able to close up if you, for example, present it in a way that is neutral, right? It's not because I want $10 million, it's because the market says that the good's worth 9 or 9.5. I want the 10 million because I have to ship it or I have to deliver it, etc. So by actually taking those interests and this issue of goods between them, they actually analyze it with standards that are neutral and are acceptable on both parties. So they've managed to actually make the gap smaller and smaller and smaller. And later on, the participant in the group said that the negotiation was a bit difficult. It took too long, and the client was not very cooperative, and even though the gap was smaller. So eventually the party that they represented or they came with decided that it's too much. So he was starting to do a negotiation with another party, which, for his interest, it makes sense. He came with one interest. He wants to sell the goods. The interest behind it is that he has flow cash that has to take care of. He needs to get rid of this specific thing at a specific timeline, or he needs to pay for his worker, or he wants to finish it before the end of the year because due to taxes, etc. It doesn't matter, but there's so much behind this position. So by actually trying and deal with another client, he was trying to promote his own interests and to solve them, to bring them into an agreement. But the first client didn't know about it. So we were asking at the course, during the negotiation course, what you could have done differently if you were with one client, not with 2. So one option, one very important tactic and way to handle is transparency. If for this client specifically, they would have come and said, listen, we have a different offer at the moment. Would you like to complete the 1 million that we miss, or you're going to miss the deal? Maybe you would have completed it. But they said, and they were right, for our client, the interest was to close the deal. So if it doesn't work with first client, he can actually work to the second client and receive what he wanted. He wanted a specific amount. He managed to get it. It's a done deal, double meaning. And for us, as the people who represent him, it's fair enough because that's the interest he brought to the table. If a relationship would have been one of the interests in this equation, it would have made sense, to go back to client number 1 and tell him, look, we want to keep our relationship because we have more deals coming, or we know it's important for the 2 countries to keep good relationship, etc. If that would have been one of the interests, one of the needs of the first party, transparency would have been a good strategy to take into consideration, because it wasn't about that. It was about closing the deal, about having the money in the account until a specific date or whatever. They actually achieved it by going to a different client.
I'm a bit confused here.
Yeah.
Do they not enter these deals, in inverted commas, with a contract already? And that I'm going to be paid X, Y, and Z?
No, this is before the contract.
Oh, okay.
Right. If you have a contract, you can. It's a matter of
Sure.
everything is clear. It's just a matter of deciding on payment installments, etc. But in this specific matter, if you want to sell me your car, right? I would come and look at the car. If I like it, we'll start to negotiate. If I don't, I will say goodbye and good luck.
I'll go
You'll
somewhere
move
else.
on to the next client. But when we sit to the table and we negotiate the car, I have to consider my interest. What do I really want to achieve from this deal? First, I need a car. Second, I need to save the money of renting another car. Third, I need to take my kids to school. I have to have a one-way. So when I bring those interests to the table, I already checked what my alternatives are. I can buy another car, I can take a cab, I can take a bus, or I can continue to rent car and to know that I have certain expenses during that year. When you come into the table, you have your own interest, your own needs or concerns. First of all, you order it, for example, right? You already order the next car. So you have to sell this one in order to have cash flow in order to pay for the other one. Second, this car is giving you big trouble, like big problems. You want to get rid of it, right? So you have your certain needs that you bring into the table. By sitting together and negotiating, you don't have to expose all your interest, right? But if you do so, it will be easier to reach a mutual ground to actually negotiate. Because we both know we need a different solution. You have your own new car, I don't have any. And etc., etc. So we sit together. The merrier, how do you say? The merrier, the better.
merrier.
The more, the merrier.
Right.
Exactly. It's the better. The more interest you put on the table, the smarter you will be identifying them, making them as neutral as possible, and to try and see how you analyze them according to standards. So if you want for your car, you want $1 million, but the standards show, the pricing, the list for cars show that it's only $800,000. Then, and if I'll show you that, then okay, you're willing to go below the original price because there's suddenly a neutral factor that we all agree to. We're not going to argue with the pricing because somebody already made a market research and reach those conclusions. I want to give you another example that we usually analyze in the courses for negotiation. There's a father with 2 daughters. He comes back home and see them fighting over an orange. And said, what's going on? And they say, I want the orange. And the other one said, I want the orange. And immediately he stopped them from arguing and said, okay, what's the big deal?
Play Solomon. Cut it in
Exactly. So Salmon was maybe taking into consideration the interest of the moms, which actually it's a beautiful example. This father was exactly the opposite. He took the orange and cut it into half. Give each daughter a half of an orange. Later on, he came back to the kitchen and he saw one of the kid is actually taking the juice out of the orange and drink it and take the peel, throw it to the garbage. The other daughter, like an hour later, comes into the kitchen, She takes the orange, she peel it, she takes all the, the juicy part, she throw it to the garbage. All she wanted was the peel in order to create those candies, candies from orange peel. He looks and said, oh my God, what have I done? I mean, it's not such a drama, but it's a perfect solution, right?
Sure.
If I would have asked them why they need the orange, I would have definitely reached a better agreement for both of them. Now, we always analyze the father as well. He actually answered his own interest. He came into the house. There was a lot of noise. He got rid of the noise.
He was
because,
tired.
he was tired after a long day of work, whatever. He managed to make peace, so-called, in the house. Now, another interest for him, he wants to teach his kids that it's okay to want something, but sometimes you need to share. So there's a lesson for the future. And he wanted to show his kids that he actually tuned to their interests and to their needs. So he heard them both, and he gave them a proper solution, and he cut the orange into half. If he would only stop, instead of judging, instead of imposing his own solution, and only simple tactics, open questions, would have asked them, why do you need the orange for? What do you need it for? And she would have told him, look, Dad, I want to make an orange juice. My friends are coming over. And then he wouldn't judge and ask the other lady, the other sister, what do you need the orange? What do you want to do with it? And she would say, look, we're having this experiment in class. We're going to make candies. He would say, look, it's perfect. You need the peel. You need the juice. Let's be positive about it. Let's be mature about it. We're going to peel and you get this and you'll get the juice and everybody's happy. It's a win-win. Instead of that, he came looking into his own interest, definitely achieving them to have taught them a lesson, etc., but the clients reach an agreement that it's not for their own best. while King Solomon was smart, right? He listened and said, okay, it's an interest of she wants the baby alive.
Yep.
She only wants justice because of revenge, of anger, of sorrow, of losing
Sure.
her own baby, etc. But he managed to identify those interests and actually put them on the table to reach a better agreement for everybody included, all the parties.
Dana, what else can you share with us in the minutes that we have left?
I will tell you, and I think one of the most important tips, two tips, if I may.
Sure.
One of them is when you reach a negotiation, of course, prepare yourself, think about what you really want to achieve and focus on that. Don't let the other party drag you to the emotional path.
Okay.
Being into a revenge suddenly, or anger, or instinct that you suddenly answer in a way that you didn't plan in before. But most importantly, even when a party tells you, I'm not negotiating this is out of the question, like saying I'm not negotiating with terrorists, or I'm not negotiating with party that is too pulling or whatever, they're already negotiating. Because the definition of negotiation is about communicating in order to influence.
Sure.
So by telling me, I'm not going to discuss it with you, also for your child, you already started some kind of communication in order to influence the other party. And the last tip, if I may have one last minute. Sometimes we say, especially in Asia, that there's a lot of potential clashes due to cultural differences. So when we sit at the table, if I sit with you and I'm coming from one background, you're coming from another one, a lot of the impasses, I would say, cultural difference, which sometimes is true. But if you look deeper to what we do at the negotiation courses and you say, wait, there is an interest here. Maybe we have an impasse because we didn't analyze it till the deep, surface.
Sure.
We didn't peel all the extra things. So basically, it's not only cultural differences. If you actually work better on preparing and analyzing the interest and trying to see what is behind the position, you will see that the surface is bigger. So things that we usually and sometimes call cultural differences, they're actually due to lack of work to reach the interest behind the positions. So try to make it clearer and put more effort on the communication and transparency. It really helps in the negotiation.
On that note, Dana Grossman, thank you so much for joining us on You and the Law this last 2 weeks. We will be calling you again. And of course, you will see Dana on our program a little bit more often. You're listening to You and the Law on 938 Live. We're talking about the benefits of negotiation and what makes a good negotiator. And of course, tips to avoid and tips to stay clear of. And of course, being a little bit flexible might work as well. This is You and the Law on 938.